In the previous video, I showed you how to work with vector masks, but now I would like to show you how to use a vector mask together with an adjustment layer to achieve an interesting effect. The effect I'm going to show you now is called vignetting, where we are darkening the edges of the photo to help to draw the attention to the center of the image. So to be able to do this, first of all, we need to create an adjustment layer. Let me go to the adjustments panel, and I'm going to create a curves adjustment layer. So I click on this icon here, and then I am going to create a vector mask for this. As you can see, we already have a mask on it. So if we click on the mask icon here, that will create a vector mask. So the second one is a vector mask, the first one is a pixel mask. If you want to get rid of the pixel mask, you can easily do that by right-clicking on it and choose Delete Layer Mask. So we have the vector mask selected, and the reason why I'm sure it's a vector mask is because here in the Properties panel it says Vector Mask. So now we can create the shape we are going to use, and that will be the ellipse tool. So from here, this area is the vector tools area in the toolbar, and I just chose ellipse tool from the shape tools, and I am going to draw an ellipse, which is something like this. Remember, just like with selections, like rectangular and elliptical selection, you can move this around the shape while you are still drawing it with the space on the keyboard. So if you press and hold space, you can move it around. When you let go, you can draw it further. So I can align it precisely, something like this. Now, the only problem is that this became a shape, and the shape is on a separate layer. This is not what I wanted to do. I wanted to draw a path into the curves adjustments layers vector mask. So let me just delete this. I go back one step. I select the shape again, and I am going to choose path. It's very important that whenever you want to do a vector mask, you should always use path mode with the tools. Just like with the pen tool, we selected path mode. With the shapes as well, we need to choose path mode. So now the mask is selected, and I can start drawing. And again, I use the space, and I move it around, and I let go. As you can see now, the shape is inside the vector mask. That's exactly what I wanted to do, but it might not work the way I want it yet. But let's just see what happens if we go to the adjustments, and I just double click on the curves adjustment layers icon so we can see the adjustment itself. And now here all I want to do is darken the image, so I am going to click on the curve and drag it down. Let's see what happens. Unfortunately, what happens is completely the opposite what I wanted. Instead of darkening the edges or the corners of the image, the adjustment layer will darken the inside or the center of the image. The reason for that is because it will only affect the ellipse itself. So whatever is inside the ellipse will be affected by the adjustment. We can invert this. If you remember from the previous tutorial, if we use the mask and select the mask itself or the path of the mask, and then come here on the top and choose subtract front shape. So turn it around, that will invert the adjustment itself. So now it works the way I want it to work. But let me just go back to the adjustments. So here I click on the adjustment option, or you can double click on the icon of the adjustment layer, and we can also darken the highlights a little bit even more. So I'm just darkening them further down and darken the whole thing altogether a bit even more down. Now we can go back to the mask options. So still here in the properties, I click on masks, and now we can make use of the feather option, because that's definitely something we need here. We need to feather out the edges of this adjustment, something like this. Now if I click on an empty area of the layers panel, we can see it without the curves, only the adjustment itself. And if we want to see it the original way, so without the vignetting, we can turn this adjustment layer off. So let's see it again with the adjustment and without, and with the adjustment again. So you can see how it helps the whole photograph. It just makes it more interesting and more focused on the center area of the photograph. And the great advantage of using a vector mask is that we can always select the ellipse itself and we can move its points around. So I can select, for example, just this point here on the top and move it down a bit. So darken the top bit a little bit even more and create something more like an egg shape. Or I can move this up or move it anywhere where I want it to. So I can create a really focused area on the image where I would like to have more light. So that's all what I wanted to show you in this video, and that's pretty much all you need to know about working with a vector mask. But there is still one more thing in Photoshop which we haven't used so far, and that is called a clipping mask. I am going to show you how to work with these type of masks in the following video.